Hello, my fellow students. I will be your instructor today on the significance of the Second Amendment and why it plays an important role in our lives or in our everyday lives. If it's going from school, if it's going to work, if it's going to groceries and back, simple stuff, right? Some people on the left ask, why is our Second Amendment so important? People on the right know why it's important. It's it's to protect ourselves, the right to defend ourselves, and also our right to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government, right? That's why our founding fathers and our people gave their lives up so we have these rights today, right? It's the reason why we're still standing. It's the reason why Japan didn't even bother to invade California and etc. and move in, because for every household there was a gun behind. The Japanese literally call it the sleeping giant for a reason. If the military wasn't there, we would be there, right? Also, I picked up my source from National Archives, right? It pretty much goes through the list of the different bills, right? But without the Second Amendment, there is no first, there is no third, there is no etc. Because as soon as you give the government a little bit of leeway, such as California, such as Chicago, such as Colorado, they say they just want gun gun rights, gun control. What's the other ones? Um, Smart gun control. There's no such thing as smart gun control. It's literally control. The word is itself control. They want control of the people. If you take away their access to protect themselves, such as from the government or a bad person, right? Let's look at some examples where weapons were taken away from. We will look at Germany. He started taking weapons from the Jewish population, so they had no way to defend themselves, right? It just starts trickling there from slow to slow to slow. Or what about when the king, right? The king started taking firearms, started having his troops go into houses uninvited, taking food, stuff like that, raising our taxes. That's the reason why we have these certain amendments. Some of them might sound a little weird. It's because, again, it was a different point in time, but that's the reason why we have those certain amendments. The freedom of speech and etc. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, right? As I go on, right, we also look at what type of ineffectiveness, right, that certain gun controls had on our people, right? You might think, oh, you know, they're there to help us and lower the crime rate down, right? These gun controls that California passes, that New York passes, right? Let's look at New York, for instance, right? A couple years back, in my section under Brewer versus Heller versus Brewer, if I remember, it's Heller, such as in Heller, the Heller case. In New York, you had to have a specific reason why you needed a license or a permit to get your CCW. Or, my apologies, your permit is your CCW, right? You needed a specific reason why. Defending yourself was not a good, right? So when you would give your papers, they do your stuff and X, Y, and Z, they can take months, weeks. There is no time limit that the state of New York put on the sheriff department, such as my state. You could wait up to almost a year to two before you even started them doing the process of the paperwork, right? But when Heller came out back in 2019, it set the gold standard for all states to follow. They couldn't play this. This is we're gonna pick and choose who we think, right? Oh, let's give the celebrities. more freedom to get their guns before every other common American. They need it most because they have special privileges. From a country where we're from, everybody is equal. There's no higher because you have more money. There's no because you have better economies. No. It's an equal playing field for all Americans, and it's equal right for all Americans. We're not an oligarchy. We don't do what the Russians do. We don't do what the Chinese do. We do not have an elite system. Yes, we have our billionaires. Yes, we have, but that's America. We live under a capitalist society, right? But when it comes to your fundamental 1 to 10 through the Bill of Rights, all Americans, even etc., 11 to all the way to the 26, all Americans this is our God-given right for our Second Amendments. Because as soon as you budge a little bit and you give the federal government or your state a little bit of gun control, right? We start stepping back. We don't start looking at our history, right? A lot of people don't understand this history, that why the Second Amendment is there. Jim Crow laws, for example, right? Sundown towns that were called from Minnesota all the way to California, right? Such as they would have like alarms and stuff like that to make the African Americans or such any other minority group to leave the area for the towns, because they're trying to keep the towns strictly white per se back in those days, 60s and below, during the 60s and below. And then on certain things, right, especially in the South, it was very, very, very more strenuous in the South, such as restricting African Americans certain rights from able to get a permit, or pushing just basic human rights to the side that made no sense. But our Caucasian counterpart is able to have all this again from the 60s and etc. Now it's not like that as much in the open like it was back in those days, right? But if we just look from history, right, even though it's a different time and place, right, but yet we're still following the same path that we made back in the 60s and from the early 20th century. Gun rights should not be restricted. Yes, there should be an oversight to a point, such as gangs, such as terrorists and stuff like that. These people don't need to have these access to these firearms, right? But everyday Americans don't need to be in constant fear of weapons. They should have access to, without being fear of laws. Because not every American keeps up to date with these new laws that are getting passed every day by the ATF during the Biden administration and etc. So if I could leave you with anything, right, why your Second Amendment is so important is, who's your first responder? Who is going to be there at that moment, at that time, at that place, when your window's getting busted, when your door's being broken down, or you're just in the wrong place at the wrong neighborhood? Would you rather have it and never need to use it than not have it and not be able to go back to your family because you didn't want to use your Second Amendment rights so you can come home to your family? For myself, I will be protecting myself and protecting my family and coming home to my family. Thank you.